What a weekend of college football. Ridiculous. I missed 2 hours of it, Garrett, because I had to do an improv show last week. And we did an improv show for about, I want to say 16 people. So it wasn't like a big,
right.
We've had 100 people in that room. It was about 16 people. But it, it was just over the line of where we were like, should we cancel this? Because we were competing with a lot here in Waco. There were like 2 different country concerts with the Fair and Clint Black. I think Travis Tritt was over at Camp Fimfo. So like we had a lot going on here. There's Celebration.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the only thing I knew was like that Celebration thing.
Yeah, Celebration, the Fair. You're not a Fair guy?
I hate the Fair.
Yeah, I know why we're friends.
The Fair is the most. In high school, we would go for girl, whatever, just do stupid stuff. But, man, as I've gotten older, like, I think I've taken my kids to the Fair once. It's just a waste of money, man. It's not – I'm not a Fair guy.
Yeah, I'm look, if I'm not a parade guy, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a Fair guy. And I wasn't not a Fair guy. Like, I was like, yeah, I'll go. I'm not going to go. I have a rule about rides. It lives in my spot. Or I don't go there.
Right.
So like Disney World, they don't pick up Space Mountain and take it somewhere.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
You got to go to it.
Yeah, you got to go to it. Like it doesn't come like I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, Space Mountain's coming to my town. Mm-hmm. No. So I don't go on stuff. Plus, I've seen the people who put those together.
Yeah.
And I'm not nuts about that. By the way, I would just like it known. Who won the Pick'em this week?
I haven't even looked at the results. I don't even know how I did. Pretty awful.
Would you like to know who won overall?
By your voice, would it be you?
You're damn right it's me.
Okay. First dub? First overall dub?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not eligible.
Right.
And so that means that Paxton is our Pick'em winner.
Congrats, Paxton.
So, congrats, Paxton. So,
I know for sure I got the Kentucky game wrong because I picked them. I thought Vanderbilt might have a letdown, and I was interested to see how that defense would do with Diego, and Diego's going to Diego. So, I know I lost that one. I went with Utah, which, whatever. So, I know I lost that one as well, but, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So, there we go. For the week, I was 9-1.
What game did you get wrong? The Utah
I picked
game?
up a game on Craig, too. So which game did I get wrong? I got Ole Miss and LSU wrong.
That's your fault. I am glad you got that wrong, buddy. I am glad.
Yeah. So Craig went 8-2, by the way.
Nice.
So I picked up a game on me. But I just told Smokey said last week was a bye week for the staff.
You always come up with something.
Yeah, no, but I picked Arizona State correctly. I picked Penn State correctly. Texas, Tennessee, Oregon, Vandy, Syracuse, and that game got a little dicey. I didn't think it would because NC State's defense is bad, but I picked Iowa State and I picked Kansas State. So
I bet
other than having no faith in the team that you love.
So I know that's another one I got wrong then is because I took Ohio State. I honestly, and I know I should be smarter and pay attention to what Vegas is saying, but I just honestly did not think Oregon could hang with them, and they damn sure could.
You know why I picked Oregon? I went back and changed it after we had Evan on the other day.
That makes sense.
He convinced me that it was kind of silly they were a home dog. And I was like, okay. Paxton said I can have it. I legally cannot.
No, you can't. Stock up on your Wagyu, Paxton. Enjoy.
I legally cannot take it. So, no. I wish I could. But I'd be violating all kind of of codes of ethics and things like that. But we are in that so we can keep track with you and see how
Correct.
you're doing. Craig is still first overall, by the way. So
that makes sense.
But I did pick up a game on this week. He went 8-2. He missed Utah and he picked LSU. He missed Kentucky. He thought
That's what
yeah. And I've not gone all the way in depth to see what everybody did yet. So, but
good week, man.
yeah, you missed Utah, Ohio State, Kentucky, and you picked Colorado.
Oh yeah, stupid Colorado.
Yeah. So there you go. And let me see if I can find Smokies. He picked Utah. He picked Ohio State. He picked Kentucky. So he was 7-3. You were 6-4. But I was 9-1.
Nice, man. Congrats.
And an overtime away from 10-0. Although, bragging about picking Penn State, Tennessee, Oregon, or any of those games that were, and Kansas State right, like they all came down to the very, very end of the game.
Yeah.
In what was the wildest college football weekend ever. By the way, if you see any of us today like swatting, we had a gnat problem this summer.
Bad.
I took care of it. Me and Emery and Garrett, we cleaned out this place. We scrubbed everything down. We got rid of a trash can that was like really old and full of old spilled Diet Cokes. And that's gone. We are now have been beset by crickets, a full-on World War Z-like invasion all over downtown Waco. I was in the Alico building the other day, and they were just like crawling up the walls. It was gross. So there are a lot of dead crickets all around, which I think has brought back the gnats, and I think they're coming from the air conditioner, which is where we had some crickets. Now, thankfully, that little bastard up there that was, I guess calling for help is gone now. But I think all these dead crickets in here are leading to the
because they're back. Like they were not like this on Friday.
No,
at all.
They were a little bit, and we put some traps out and other things. So if anybody has a
recipe
solution
or something,
for them, Kyle, patience. We'll talk football in a second. If anybody has a solution for them, we will. Also, pet peeve. I'm going to tell you right now, as a viewer in the chat, if you tell me what to talk about, I will intentionally not.
Like a child.
For spite. Yes. Talk shows are a plethora of different things. So, Kim, I have no comment on a Waco infestation. I appreciate your candor.
Thank you.
And
Thank
your,
you,
well,
Kim.
maybe not your candor, but your reservation. So, see you right there. One, but if anybody has one. So, anyway, Brent B, see, there we go. He wants me to talk about OU and Texas. Guess what? That game was super
sucked.
boring.
That
It's
game
not even
sucked.
on our list to talk about, really, other than Texas is really, really good.
I checked out of it. Like I think I watched probably about 30 minutes of that game and completely checked out. It was a terrible game to watch.
Yeah, no, it was like I had it on the quad,
Well, you have to, yeah.
but it was not one of the ones I talked about. So starting on Friday and going through Sunday, we had just game after game after game that were fantastic. And Arizona State beats Utah. That's such a huge thing for them. Arizona State's 5-1. They're just good, man. They're just really, really good. And I say really good. They just know how to do it. Their only loss is by a touchdown to Tech, a team that's also good.
Right.
So they're what Kenny Dillingham has done there is fantastic. And I know that there are bigger games, but I'm just going to go in order throughout the show, and we're going to go bop, 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 bop. Just go right through them. Cam Scadaboo's great.
He's so fun, man.
Cam Rising is probably done.
He was terrible.
Although if he's out for the season, he is actually eligible to apply for an 8th year, I don't think he should do that. I think sometimes you have to read the writing on the wall.
I kind of feel like I don't think, I could be totally wrong on this. I said what's up to him at Big 12 Media Days. I've never interacted with him, but I don't think he would necessarily want to do that. I think he kind of understands where things are. And if you go and look at the track record, man, he's been prone to history. I mean, he's been prone to injuries throughout his entire tenure. At this point, what else do you have to prove? I know you still want to be able to play ball if you have an option, and I get that, but at some point you just kind of got to be realistic. And if you're wanting your university to be better and continue to have success, then you need to turn over the keys to Isaac Wilson and just let him roll, because you're going to hinder his development and the progression of that team and as a whole. I would not be surprised to see Cam Rising hang it up, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Whittingham did at the end of the year too, but that's to be seen.
Yeah. And I think maybe they already have a succession plan. Yeah. He's already talked. He talked, pretty openly with us.
Well, I think it would be
about, this is not. It's not long for him before he's riding his motorcycle and all that.
I wish him and Cam Rising would hang it up at the same time, and that Arizona State would do a thing where they just ride out, hit the desert on their motorcycles and just drive out. I think that would be badass.
Yeah, like Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got TCU this week.
They should win that.
Well, both teams are kind of reeling right now. They're 2-game losing streak and a 2-game losing streak for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2-game losing streak for both of them, and TCU's lost 3 of their last 4.
I think that Utah's defense is the difference. Would be the difference in that one. I don't think TCU. I'm just kind of done with TCU at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Really briefly, we'll talk about Texas and Oklahoma. Texas really good. Oklahoma has no offense.
None.
And look, if Deion Burke, all their weapons are going to be out, any chance that Michael Hawkins had to make splash plays in that game through the air, we're already off the table. Mm-hmm. So Brent Venables has to do some work on offense. Their defense is really good, and for a time looked like they might be able to keep Texas contained a little bit to where it wasn't going to be for a minute I thought okay, Texas is still going to win, but this is going to be more 27 to 14 than 34-3. And then once they got out of the first quarter and the jitters went out and Quinn Ewers got his sea legs back. Yeah. Then I was like, no, I can't believe I ever thought that. It was just, they have no offense at Oklahoma.
No, I thought that the defense for Oklahoma could make things interesting, but they just couldn't. And Texas, their depth is ridiculous. They have playmakers everywhere. When somebody drops, there's just another 5-star that steps up and comes into it. Taylor Tatum had a really costly fumble early on for Oklahoma. They couldn't get anything going. I would love to see that full strength in Oklahoma to have, that all of their wide receivers available, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. They might be able to get them next year. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll see. Penn State and USC was one of my favorite games of the day. It was a really fun game to watch, and I cannot imagine if you're a USC fan watching the last drive in regulation and going, oh, this is well played out. You have all 3 timeouts and you got the ball back.
And Penn State called one and gave them an opportunity to.
Yeah, so they essentially had 4 timeouts when they got the ball back. Yeah. And Lincoln Riley didn't use any of them. And then one time when he used the first one, he let 40 seconds go off the clock. What are you doing? Then he didn't even have time to use the other 2.
No.
You can't take him with you. The coaching decisions that he's made over the last couple of years are maddening because we know he's better than that.
Do you think it's one of those things where the outside noise is starting to kind of filter in there or something?
I have no idea. But they played almost good enough. They had Penn State where they wanted. They picked off Drew Aller 3 times. It was his worst game of the year as far as turnovers go.
But he also put together arguably his best drive of his career.
Oh, yeah. And Tyler Warren had 17 catches. At no point did they go, hey, let's maybe get somebody on 44.
Yeah.
He snapped the ball and caught a touchdown pass. That was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. That was crazy. That's just a crazy trick play. just bananas. So I don't know what's going on with Lincoln Riley. I do not know.
How big of a win was that for James Franklin, you think? Because
a pretty big one.
Because he needed that, especially on the same day when Ryan Day kind of falters a little bit. I think that was a pretty damn big win for James Franklin.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big one. And yeah, especially now, like in the Big Ten, them in Oregon, I mean, they're above Ohio State right now, right? So they have a leg up. Indiana also above Ohio State right now. Like to mention that Indiana is bowl eligible.
So weird.
BYU also bowl eligible. Iowa State also bowl eligible in the minimum number of games it took to do that. So those are all pretty big surprises this year. Ohio State technically not bowl eligible yet. They could still go 5-7. Do I think that's going to happen? No. That was it. And I kind of want to save that one to the end, Garrett, because that was one of the last ones we saw. But just another bananas game. But Penn State and USC, you can see USC is right there. Like they are right there about to being a complete team. So again, I don't think this is a like let's get rid of Lincoln Riley thing. Like they're right there. But he had that game won. All they had to do was go down and kick a field goal.
Well, how much? I know that's on him. At the same time, he should have called the timeouts. That's inexcusable, the clock management down the stretch. But at the same time, like if you're Will Howard, you've got to know in that situation you cannot run the ball. Or if you're going to run, you need to get it quick, get out of bounds, hurry up and spike it or something. That was just overall complete debacle.
Who had worse clock management? Lincoln Riley or Will Howard? Will Howard at the end of the Oregon game, Lincoln Riley at the end of the Penn State game.
Man, I think they're about equal. I don't know. I can't pin. They were both
like
equal.
Will Howard did what Dak did
against
the 49ers a couple years ago, where the idea was to get but they also his idea was we get up and we spike it, or we get up and we get the timeout. You're like, well, yeah, but you know that everybody on this play is 6 seconds left. You told them to all run downfield. Yeah. They can't get back fast enough.
I'm gonna put it on Lincoln Riley because he's a head coach. Will Howard was just a quarterback, and Ryan Day could have stepped in and helped him whatever. But I think I'm gonna go with Lincoln Riley and having the worst decision making down the stretch.
Yeah, that was I don't know. The only other time I've seen something like that was it spurred on a team when Baylor beat Oklahoma. The night Robert Griffin essentially won the Heisman Trophy on the pass to Terrence Williams. Early in that drive, they stopped Baylor for a minimal or no gain, and they called a timeout. And at that point, Art Briles was content because of the field position to not risk it and take it to overtime. Knowing that he's got Robert Griffin, he's at home, these are all big things. But when they called timeout, and this is confirmed by Briles in the postgame, it's confirmed by RG3 and anybody who's on the sideline, this isn't me speculating, this is a fact.
Yeah.
When Bob Stoops called timeout, they said, wait a minute, we're about to take this to overtime. All right, if we're going to start using timeouts and doing those things, then let's see if we can make a play here.
Right.
And so then they made a play and then got into the position where they could make that last throw, which was the most exciting end of a game I've ever personally been at, right there. I guess from the other side, I was at wide right 3, so if I wasn't
just a perspective, huh?
Perspective, it was not exciting. It was terrible and awful. It was the worst day ever. But and look, I'd rather have SMU, the game I went to 2 weeks ago. I'd rather have that 7 million times before one wide right.
Oh, yeah.
Like that,
just get it over with. You know you got smoked.
I have time to that's it. The smoke, bad, not, But, that was the most exhilarating thing I'd ever personally witnessed from a fan base and just in historical moment. But it reminded me of that where, well, why are you playing for overtime or are you not? Because you're in the shotgun. You're still you're not kneeling out the clock.
Right.
Penn State is trying to counter it by making sure they have the right defense on the field. So why aren't you using these timeouts? Like, whose fault was it that you didn't, like, did somebody not tell you how many you had? Did you not realize it? These are things I need answers to.
Well, in a situation like that, and I know it, how much input should the offensive coordinator have? Like, should they be in his ear, in Lincoln Riley's ear, or do you just kind of not get in his head, or do you stay out? Like, should somebody have stepped in and said something to Lincoln in that situation to help him, like, maybe look at the clock? Maybe he was more focused, and I know you should be paying attention at all times, but does somebody need to step in?
I'm sure somebody was. I mean, I know if I was any of his coordinators, I'd be like, timeout, timeout. The other question I have is, like, who else can call a timeout? It's the quarterback.
Exactly.
I'm wondering if Miller Moss wasn't like, should we call a timeout right now?
Yeah, because it's like everybody was just frozen. They didn't. It was just weird.
And then, like, that play happened, and they kind of let it roll. It's like he thought there was a full another minute left or something. I'm not sure. That was very, very bizarre. That was very bizarre. Now, and the SEC, paid off, like, they delivered on their "we have the most exciting brand of football" propaganda this week. As much as that I hate saying that, they really did, because Alabama almost had the worst double play in the SEC, where the two teams who are perpetually at the bottom of the SEC are South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. South Carolina has a slightly better history. And by slight, it's like it's a photo finish.
Yes.
Right? They're not, like, again, there's not a whole lot in South Carolina history that, if you gave the resume side by side, you would go, oh, well, this team is so much better. It's not. So Alabama almost had that double play. And if you thought the callers were mad on Feinbaum last week.
That's all I kept thinking about. I kept seeing legend in my head. Like, what is he going to do
Strike
this
one,
week?
dude.
I love seeing Alabama down like this. I love seeing them so vulnerable. It makes me happy. I think South Carolina is a team that is better than how they're perceived. And that might sound redundant or whatever, but I think they should have beaten LSU. I think they should have beaten Alabama. When you look at that, I think Lenore Sellers, the quarterback, kind of got in his head a little bit. He made a couple of horrible throws down the stretch, including an interception that kind of gave South Carolina has the key interception. Then Lenore comes out, throws one. He made some decisions down the stretch where I think he got a little nervous and the moment was a little too big for him. But at the same time, the onside kicks were awesome. Beamer ball was in full effect.
Hey,
it was a hell of a game.
I know this about Frank Beamer on Saturday. There are times where, like, and I'm sure you've done this with your kids. I don't have any kids, but I do know this. Where, like, if they do something that you know that you taught them and they do it well, you're more proud of them than, like, he might have been more proud of him that moment than he was when he graduated college. Or, like, I promise you, the feeling for Frank Beamer with the way their special teams played the other day from his son is probably, like, and he won't admit this to himself or anybody, but if you could scientifically quantify it, probably the same feeling as when he had his first grandkid.
Probably.
Like, that's the same, like, oh my gosh, look at that onside kick. That's the same. Like, I remember when I saw my first grandson. Like, oh, that's the feeling. I promise you he had that. Because Frank Beamer, and I still don't understand why more people don't buy into at least his style of football and building that into your culture.
Because it's not popular.
Partially. Like, it's not have to be your whole identity, but the thing is that Virginia Tech was able to sustain and be good without always having to have, like, superstars all over the place. And then when you have a superstar pop in, like, I think teams like Baylor and TCU, and that's why I like Iowa State. Like, Iowa State is the most, like, Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, like, program in the country right now, because Matt Campbell's built in these things. We're always going to run the ball well. We're always going to build a stuff around this. We're always going to have a tough defense.
No stupid penalties.
Yeah, we're going to coach ourselves well. We're going to try to make big plays on special teams. We're not going to make mistakes. So, yeah, some years that's going to lead to 6 and 6 years because we just don't have the guys. But when we do have the guys, the culture is there that when the talent, like, jumps them over the level, you know. I can just tell, like, Florida State doesn't have that culture right now. Like, it's either a ton of talent or it's not. Like, that's why I think more people need to build their programs like Frank Beamer, especially now where the talent is going to ebb and flow faster than it ever has. And that goes for everybody. That goes for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And you also don't have to wait and hope you hit on a recruiting class now.
Yeah.
You can, if you have that one X factor player, you can grab them in the portal, come in, implement them in that culture, and you can roll with them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I thought I will tell you this. God, it's gonna hurt. Hold on, let me. Dabo's like that. Dabo's, they're built kind of like that, and I think he's like, again, if he added 3 transfers to this team next year, they'd be back in the they'd be back in the nobody can stop them at all phase. That's the thing that's the difference between him and like Texas right now, is that like Texas took one of his best defensive players, one of his 2. Barrett Carter's still there. But they took Andrew Mikuba, and instead of him going like, okay, if Texas is going to take mine, let me go take, you know, UCLA's or someone like that and put them here. That's all I'm saying he needs to do. So we're not going to talk about them because they rolled again. They're really good. But Alabama barely out. Like they're gonna build through this, but Kalen DeBoer is gonna have to hear it. I mean, last week you heard like, oh, they're a Matty Ward T-shirt,
which is stupid.
Like stupid things. Like he could go there dressed in footy pajamas if they won national titles. You know, everybody would have been like, listen, if like Nick Saban rolled out there in footy pajamas and won all those titles he won, they'd be like, look, I don't know why he's wearing T-shirts. He needs to put on some Jurassic Park footy pajamas and go out there and win games. Those are things that happen when you're realizing that the greatest coach of all time is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And they've been through this before as a fan base between Bear Bryant and Gene Stallings and between Gene Stallings and Nick Saban. So I think they're worried that, like, okay, this is what it's going to be again. So we'll see. Florida and Tennessee was surprisingly a really exciting game. I think Arkansas might have cracked the code on how to contain that offense a little bit. Tennessee's defense is still really good. I mean, they only gave up 17 points for crying out loud. But that game was 3-0 Florida at halftime. So Tennessee's and Josh Heupel's offense has to kind of control alt-delete here.
Yeah, and that's going to make it I don't know what to make of them, honestly. And with Bama being the way they are, that matchup this weekend between those two is going to get off the rails. I honestly don't know who to even pick in that or what to expect. But you're right. I think there have been some vulnerabilities in this offense. And people are starting to figure them out. But they're good. Tennessee's still going to be good. They're still going to win a lot of games. But I think it's more so like credit to Florida for trying to save your coach's job and, you know, not just throwing in the towel on this season and continuing to fight. Now you're in a circumstance where Mertz is officially done for the year. So it is the DJ Lagway show, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of Florida fans happy.
The problem is that like every week until sadly the last one, gets harder and harder for them.
Absolutely does.
You know, they've got Kentucky this week. I think they can hang with Kentucky, but then Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, 4 games in a row. If they win any one of those, that would be a shocker.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult.
Before the Florida at FSU game that's going to be on Tubi or some crap. God. I'll never be less excited to watch that game in my life. I mean, it's just bad. Oh, it's so bad right now. Oh, man. At least there's some good teams in Florida. By the way, I say there's some.
UCF ain't one of them.
There's one. There's really right now one
Miami.
really good team. It's Miami. UCF has lost 3 in a row. USF
They're USF.
Lost their quarterback. They've got 3 losses now. I like USF. I like what they're doing, but without Byron Brown, it's going to be hard to win. Plus, they had the hurricane this week. They had to play at Camping World. That was not a great situation to roll into. Anyway, hopefully Byron Brown isn't out that long. But UCF's lost 3 games in a row. Yeah, I mean, there's legitimately one good team right there now, and it's Miami. Yeah. Hard to say. Hard to say. When we come back, we're going to talk Ole Miss, LSU. We're going to talk Oregon and Ohio State, Kansas State and Colorado, plus 2 of the more gut-wrenching losses I've seen, given what happened at the end of the games in Purdue and Illinois and North Carolina and Georgia Tech. Just gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.